Hello, you wild thing. Today has been a day. I am an hour behind. But here's something that happened this morning that I think it took me, it delayed me in actually like getting going because I don't know how often this happens to you. For me, not that often, but I let an event with my kids this morning kind of hijack my energy. They were fighting, they were arguing over who had to feed the dog and walk the dog. And this morning it was just kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. And this was at 7:30 a.m. It's now currently afternoon. And I've let this energy kind of take over my body. It's made me feel tired. It's given me a headache and a stiff neck because I don't know why, but this anxiety, it's like this negative energy is trapped in my body. And it reminded me of the days when I was sacrificing my health, my well being to grow my business because I was really avoiding slaying the dragon. And slaying the dragon was really about being a better person to be able to handle tougher situations. And being able to handle tougher situations is really what we're going to talk about today in this episode about scaling your business. A lot of us might feel uncomfortable with the word scaling because we think of this as taking massive risks, as having to hire a lot of people, or I don't know, adopt new software that can be really bloody expensive. It could mean putting an order in for a product that's going to cost you $50,000. It could be buying new machinery for your business, whatever it is. We think of scaling as this thing that's very uncomfortable and scary. And some of us are addicted to it. For me, I always attributed scaling with the time in my life when I was having two babies and growing my agency. And I'm only now coming out of this like traumatic time in my life. You know what it's like if you have children, those first couple of formative years are very, very tough. And not only was I a new mom in a new city and raising both these incredible boys, I was also growing my business. And so scaling to me was always about that human sacrifice of feeling good. It always meant that if in order to grow my business would mean I'd have to trade in how I feel and the rest that I got and the comfort that I had. But more importantly, I always felt like I was trading scaling for joy. Why not have it all? And so today I want to talk to you about some simple steps that I took, the 3S framework for scaling a business that allows you to do it sustainably. There is a lot of pressure in our society to be an entrepreneur that has a super profitable business or something that makes millions and millions of dollars. And I think that's great. That's the point of business, is to be profitable. I get it. But it's also to create an impact. And it's really hard for you to create a healthy impact if you're not actually being the example of the entrepreneur building a business to create that impact. And so I reflected quickly about all the areas in my life that I say no regrets, but all the areas in where I could have done a better job, but I just didn't know then, but I know now. So here I am being your big sister, your big wild sister, to teach you the three things that will help you grow your business, scale your business in a way that is complementary to the life that you want to live. So many women, I know this, I was one of them. I see it in my peer group. When they hit their first big business milestone, they tend to burn out. And then after they hit that goal, whether we'll just say it's $1 million, they breathe this sigh of relief. But then it's like the burnout catches up to them. See, when you're actually in it and you're really going for gold, think of an Olympian too, is you're in the adrenaline. And the adrenaline is what keeps you alive. It's what gives you that energy to keep going. And the moment you stop is when you get all of the symptoms. That's why a lot of people have heart attacks on vacation, because they're living in burnout. They're living in overdrive. And then all of a sudden they stop and they relax, and their body's like, here's all the crap that you've been avoiding. And here it is. You have nothing else to do or think about. Boom, boom, boom. And this happened to me. And I'm still facing these little traumatic moments, but also when I see that energy rise up, I face it. I nip it in the bud. So for instance, after this little situation with my kids this morning, I had to go to a coffee meeting at this incredible coffee company in Kelowna, BC called Craft 42. And I was doing a coffee tasting with them. They have beautiful coffee from places like Ethiopia, Rwanda, Peru. And much like a wine tasting, we did a coffee tasting. And as soon as I showed up, I just felt so tense and so not able to socialize because I was just ruminating on all the events that happened with my kids that morning. And not so much regretting how I showed up as a parent because I know I missed the mark on this one, but I got stuck in the loop of wondering why I was still feeling so connected to something that happened this morning that often happens. It was insane for me, but it wasn't even that big of a deal. The boys were fighting, something happened, whatever. And so I'm trying to be present. I'm sitting there at this coffee bar and really cool experience, very humbling. When I got back to the studio, Dan was there and he was like, just in passing, I just mentioned, I was like, hey, I'm just stuck in this like ooey gooey energy. I don't know how to get out of it. And it's really bugging me. So he brought me aside, he hugged me and he kind of coach me out of it, although I'm still stuck in it. But here's the thing is over the years, I have grown the awareness to know when I'm stuck in an energy or a mood that I know I shouldn't be stuck in. Ask me 10 years ago, and I would have blamed everybody else and all these outside factors as to why I'm feeling like crap. Now I'm in this position where I know what's going to make me feel better: fresh air, sunlight, exercise. I know that I'm feeling grumpy because of something, and it's up to me to actually snap out of it because I own my outcome. I own my energy. I own how I feel and think about the world. So I would not have thought about this when I was first starting my first business. This, again, I would have been projecting onto somebody else. So when I reflected back on those moments of like feeling defeated or feeling like I'm not enough or feeling like I'm the worst entrepreneur ever, I came up with these ideas of how to get out of this the next time it happens, these cycles of like not enoughness, of like I suck, or really not allowing myself to control the situation. So the 3S framework for scaling sanely. This could also be applied to business or to family life. One is systems before scaling. It's like one key process, for instance, in the world of if you have clients, like if you're an agency, it's creating the perfect client onboarding system. We use Asana, ASANA. It's a simple tool that allows us for project management. We also use Notion. We do both depending on the project. But we came up with a client onboarding checklist. And every time we onboarded a new client, we would refer back to this checklist and tweak it. Is that part necessary? Is it not? Because not only do you want to look professional because somebody is investing in your service or your product, but you also want to minimize the possibility of you making mistakes. And so client onboarding was just a perfect way for us to start in the business. So now we knew when this happens, we need to collect this information from the customer, and then we move on to the next stage, and so on and so forth. So creating these systems was key to us actually doing things sustainably because we knew, hey, over time, client onboarding would take about an hour. And so we had to allocate that time in the week to onboard clients. This system can be applied for your accounting. It can be applied to your kids at home, post-school. What do they do when they get home from school? My kids empty their lunch boxes, refill their water bottles, remake their lunches, empty all the crap out of their bags, hang it up, reset their house, clean up, do their laundry, do their chores before they're allowed to do anything that's fun. And if they have homework to do, that's what they have to do. Walk the dog, you name it. So it's kind of like this system that we set up is this checklist of stuff that they need to accomplish before they can do anything else. Sometimes we're like, well, where do we begin? So we reflect back on this rule called the 80-20 rule for identifying your highest leverage systems. What is the absolute most important thing you should be systematizing? A lot of the times it's the thing we're avoiding because it's the beast. When I ran my PR agency, There were moments when I was thick in the pitching. And that was the part of PR that I liked the least, was the pitching and the following up. But it was arguably one of the most important things. I loved setting up the client. I loved the strategy. I loved managing the team. I loved tweaking pitches, but I didn't like the constant pitching and following up. So anyways, the highest leverage system for me was to create the process that allowed me to have dedicated time in the week to do the pitching, to the point where the system became so refined. It was so easy for me to train somebody else to do it. And eventually we outsourced, we hired people, and those people became employees. See what I mean? When you systematize things, however big or not big they are, allows you to actually do things more efficiently. Think about even things in your personal life. Like, is there any way of systematizing your meal prep? Is there any way of systematizing how and when your car gets fueled up and cleaned? Or how often your water bottles are filled on your desk? There's a system for absolutely everything. And I honestly believe that people should be using this in all facets of their life, not just in business. So common mistakes that people make when creating these systems is that they complicate things. They put way too much in there. And here's the error that they often make, is that when the systems become sustainable, it gives them more time. Time is leverage. So when they sit back and think, well, geez, what do I do now? They end up adding more to the system and the process, which is the biggest mistake you can make, because simple scales. In order to scale a business, you have to keep it simple. The other common mistake is that they don't get the buy-in from the team, but they don't actually set the vision for the team as to why that's important. So you have to show your team, here's a system I'm creating. I'd love for you to help me build it. Let's do this together, because it's going to get you more time back. And then the other common mistake people make is they'll buy Notion or they'll buy Asana and they'll start creating all these systems and they complicate it, but they end up building something that nobody actually uses. So they waste time building these things that nobody actually uses. So a quick tip is document your 3 most repeated tasks this week. And then these become your first system opportunities. What is it? What are the 3 most common tasks that you do in a week for your business or for yourself? And then how can you systematize it? It could be organizing your inbox, because if you use Gmail like we do, you can actually create automations to put emails that go into folders so that you're not overwhelmed by everything that comes in your inbox. You could start by systematizing how you maybe train new employees, or how you onboard new employees, or how you do the accounting. Everything has a place and everything can be systematized. So the next part of this is the support. How are you then getting support to reinforce these systems? And actually, if you listen to episode 355 on how to get over the fear of delegating your inbox, I'll teach you what I did to actually finally delegate all my inboxes to my assistant. Now it's actually created not just this time freedom, but this like mental load freedom, knowing that I don't have to go in and refresh all the time. So there are types of supports in your team. There could be your assistant. It could be entrepreneurs or contractors or technology or community. It's who are the people you need to put into place to help maintain and reinforce the systems that you've created. There is an absolute cost of not delegating, and you can calculate this very simply. If you bill out $200 an hour for the work that you do, you should not be doing tasks that somebody you can hire to do costs $20 an hour. Anything less than the value of your hourly time is stuff you should not be doing. Now, a lot of people come back to me with this and they argue about all the stuff that they enjoy doing in their business. And it's okay to still do the stuff that you enjoy doing in your business. But if it means that it's taking away from the thing you know you should be focusing on, then you should not be doing that. So there is a cost. Who would I recommend? So people come to me, Renee, here I am at my business. Who do I hire? Who's my next hire? Well, Most businesses don't actually have a full-time executive assistant. So there's a good start. And if you don't have the resources yet, then you start with a few hours a week. And then you start delegating some of those tasks, like managing your inbox and managing your calendar. Those are the first two things all the time. There's a lot of people who get incredible leverage using social media, yet they don't have a full-time creative director who is the person who is filming the content, creating the content, and editing the content. So there's somebody too. So you got to think about, who do you absolutely need in your business to get to that next level? Did you know the most expensive employee on your payroll is you? So stop wasting your time doing the things that you're not even good at. True entrepreneurial courage isn't handling everything yourself. It's actually trusting other people with your vision. So get clear on your vision. Support team. Like, you look at anybody who's successful in anything from professional athletes, Olympians, to professional makeup artists, to influencers on social media. Nobody got there alone. They have a team behind them, whether it's one person or 10 or 20. Build up that support team, share the vision, and go there together. So finally, and this is the one that I just kind of did last, not even step 3, but I did this in step 50, was setting self boundaries. It's also counterintuitive because what do I say? It's like these limits, it limits you to creating your own freedom when you set these boundaries. For me, the boundary is I have one night of the week off to myself where I can do whatever I want. And also creating agreements with my husband and my kids and my team. An agreement, for example, is in our house, because we had this issue with walking the dog today, is that both the boys have 2 days a week where they own feeding him breakfast and dinner and walking the dog twice, morning and evening. I have 1 day a week, and my husband agreed to do on the weekends. But he hasn't been, because he's been busy training for an Ironman and traveling a lot. So this past weekend, he was downstairs on his stationary bike training for his Ironman. We were leaving to go somewhere in 20 minutes, and I walked down there and I said, "Hey, we had an agreement. You said you would be walking the dog and feeding him on the weekends, and you haven't done this lately. I really need you to do this today." And he said, "Well, I'm training for my Ironman, and I need to put in these kilometers before I leave to go to the meeting or the gym." And I said in my head, self-boundary, Renee, be firm. And I said, "That's great. I also have things to do, but our agreement is that you are going to do it on the weekends." And sure enough, he's like, "You're right." He got off the bike and he went and he walked the dog. We can create these boundaries. We can create these rules and agreements with people, but if we're not actually the ones reinforcing these things for ourselves, it's not going to get done. Another thing. So Monday is usually my night off, but there was a lot going on with meetings and events. So we switched this past week so that Tuesday I got the night off. And my boys had soccer, and it was this weird situations where they both had soccer practice starting so late at 8 p.m. at 2 different locations that were 5 minutes away from each other. So he was busy dropping the kids off, and he was so tired. My husband, Dan, was so tired from the day before, and I already agreed to switch the evenings, and I wasn't as tired as him. Old Renee would have been like, "I know you're tired. It's okay. I'll take the boys." The problem when you're not reinforcing your boundaries is that you teach people how to teach you. You teach people how to essentially take advantage of you being kind of a pushover. And so after he left with the kids, knowing that he was tired, I felt guilty. I felt guilty. I was like, I can't sit down. I can't relax. I'm not going to read a book or watch a show or do anything that would be relaxing, because now I feel guilty that he's the one that's more tired than me. And he's the one that's doing this parenting thing. And I finally started to get into this little mood of doing stuff around the house that I wanted to do that I haven't been able to get to, like install a paper towel rack. Anyway, the point being is that I went through this guilt, and I see this a lot with women, how they like set these boundaries and they put a stake in the ground. They're going to be like, "I'm taking Saturday mornings off from me." And then they never reinforce those boundaries with anybody else. to the point where they never get those Saturday mornings off. So create those boundaries, set agreements with people around you. And these are non-negotiables. You can't negotiate my night off. You can maybe trade a day, but I always get my night off. And then you need to create a power not do list. It's easy to create a to-do list. Check it, write it off, all these things. Blah, blah, blah. How about writing a list of the things that you're not going to do today? I should have started off by saying, I'm not going to let my kids overwhelm me. The power not to do list can be just as effective, but it's also highlighting areas where you have weakness. You have weakness around maybe your self-worth or not feeling like you deserve that night off. You've created these boundaries, but now you're not reinforcing them. So how about this power not to do list is the thing that allows you to reinforce those self-boundaries. So there are a few warning signs before I wrap things up about your boundaries that are often kind of like when you let them slip. One is that you're still exhausted. So despite you creating these parameters around protecting your rest and your health, your mental and physical health, you're still constantly exhausted. There's something up, right? There's something still going on. You should still be rested. Another thing could be resentment towards your team or clients or your partner. Wherever you start to see resentment come up and you're emotionally aware enough to know that it's resentment, you got to say something. Say something because resentment festers. It grows. It's like black mold. If you don't deal with it when it's small, it just spreads everywhere and it becomes toxic and dangerous. And I would say, looking at employees that were shining employees that started to not perform, or even marriages and relationships that fail because the resentment was there and they were aware of it, but they never talked about it. They never discussed it. Every single time I was able to put a finger on the feeling of resentment towards somebody, think about it, and then gracefully approach them about the issue, it's like an incredible sense of relief for me and for the other person, because sometimes they don't even know that they're doing that thing. When you're able to, I guess, expose how you feel to somebody else, it's like the best feeling for everybody. The other thing too is like when you're overly exhausted and you're not actually reinforcing your own boundaries, the quality of your work, the quality of your parenting, the quality of you showing up as a partner, it's diminished. That quality of the work declines because you're not actually taking the rest that you need. You're not reinforcing those boundaries. And how many times can I say that? Reinforce your boundaries. And then finally, it's like the hell yeah or the hell yeah no filter. If you're like, for instance, the Pink Skirt Project's coming up and there's some vendors that want to come in, and to be honest with you, some of them are a heck no. Like no, because energetically it just doesn't feel like a great match. So I will be resentful towards them if I say yes to them, knowing that they're just not a great match. So you have to listen to your gut instinctively. Is it saying yes or is it saying no? Because it's pretty freaking smart, let me tell you. So one thing I know in all of these scaling your business, I'm not talking about fancy spreadsheets. I'm not talking about fancy AI or plugins and making things automated. I'm talking about these 3 basic facts. You should not sacrifice yourself on the altar of success, because when you don't have any energy to celebrate your wins, what's the point of doing it to begin with? So if you're still confused about all of this, 2 things. 1, if you don't have an assistant and you need somebody to help manage your email or your inbox, your calendar, whatever, go to our sponsor, linkedva.com. Check out the incredible sponsor or the incredible assistants that they have that can help you leverage your time better and move the needle in your business, even in your personal life, as well as come to Kelowna on June 12th for the Pink Skirt Project. Come hang out with me, come hang out with other women who still don't know what the heck they're doing with their time, still don't know how the heck to set their self boundaries. And there's also a ton of them that do. So come mingle with women who have done it before, who can help answer your burning questions in business and in life, go to thepinkskirtproject.com and always Instagram me, any DMs. I check them all, Renee_Warren. Until next time, ladies, peace out.